down from on heaven. Let your Holy Spirit rest on our minds and our hearts and on our lips, that the words that come forth from our mouths will be words of encouragement, words of building, Father God, words that will store good dialogue, good debate from either side of the house. I pray for unity this morning. I pray for all the points that come out, Father God, that everyone will walk together, Father God, in unison, that your kingdom will be established in this country that we call Anguilla. Mirror your will from heaven, Lord, and use us only as the conduits to have your will in the earth. In Jesus' precious name, amen and amen. God bless you. God bless you.
Good morning, members. You may be seated.
Confirmation of minutes. Minutes of proceedings of the 9th meeting of the 2nd session of the 13th Anguilla House of Assembly.
I ask that members look through the minutes. If there are any amendments and/or corrections, if there are no amendments or corrections to the minutes, I ask that a member move a motion to confirm the minutes as circulated.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the minutes be accepted as circulated.
Is there a seconder?
I rise to second, Mr. Speaker.
The minutes. A motion has been moved to confirm that the minutes be accepted as circulated, and it was seconded. I put the question that the minutes be confirmed as circulated. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Oath of allegiance to new members, none. Announcements by the direction of the Speaker.
I would have received apologies from the Honorable Speaker of this Honorable House, as well as the Honorable Member for Valley North and the Honorable Deputy Governor.
Questions? None. Government statements on recent developments? None. Papers? None. Reports from committees? None. Petitions? None. Government notices? None. Private members' notices? None. Motions? Motion 12 of 2026, 2/13 HOA, Road Safety Legislative Reform.
Mr. Speaker, good morning. I would like to lay before the House motion number 12/2026-2/13 HOA. Motion is road safety. Sorry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The motion is shortly entitled Road Safety Legislative Reform. Resolution. Whereas road safety is a matter of national importance affecting the lives, health, and well-being of all residents and visitors to Anguilla, and whereas the amendments of the Vehicular and Road Traffic Act are listed on the 2026-2027 legislative program, and whereas the review amendment process of the Vehicular and Road Traffic Act, which commenced in 2021, is substantially advanced following public development stakeholder consultations and drafting work, and is capable of being brought for legislative consideration. And whereas the proposed reforms include measures relating to the use of child seat restraint systems, mandatory seatbelt use, and the prevention of drinking under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And whereas the timely enactment of these measures would strengthen the protection of drivers, passengers, pedestrians, and other road users, particularly children, and contribute to the reduction of road traffic injuries and fatalities. Be it resolved that in this honorable house, this honorable house urges the government of Anguilla to accord priority to the completion of the legislative process and to bring forward for consideration by this house at the earliest opportunity amendments to the Vehicles and Road Traffic Act and any related legislation to 1, provide for the mandatory use of appropriate child seat restraint systems and child safety seats. 2, strengthen requirements for the use of seatbelts by drivers and passengers. 3, modernize and strengthen provisions relating to driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And 4, implement such other road safety measures as may be necessary to enhance the public safety and reflect contemporary standards and best practices. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Are there any contributions to this motion? I acknowledge the single island-wide member, Mr. Vanderpool.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to see you in the chair this morning. I'd like to extend a pleasant good morning to all of my honorable colleagues on both sides of the aisle, the House of Assembly staff, those present with us in the gallery today, as well as
Member, slight adjustment. Relax the mover of the motion to explain the merits and principles of this motion, and then we'll go into the debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very happy to see the single island-wide member, Mr. Joseph Vanderpool, get up to ensure, I'm sure he's going to endorse this fully. And I believe that this is going to be something that is non-controversial and is universally accepted by both sides of the political divide. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to say on the outset that this is not blaming anybody. This is not blaming the Anguilla United Front, who holds the reins of political power at this point. This is not to blame the Attorney General's chambers. This is not to lay blame on anybody. Because as you can see from the introduction of this motion, the work on this motion actually started in 2020. We went to an executive council in 2020, and the drafting work relating to this legislation started in earnest in 2021. Now, I would say this. There have been previous commissioners of police who have, I don't want to say stumbling blocks or roadblocks, but have not been as cooperative as I would like. But somehow, some way, we were blessed with the opportunity to have Robert Clark come to our shows. And immediately when I spoke to him about this and other matters as it relates to Road Traffic Act, he was on board. And immediately we started the process of drafting the legislation in the ministry. And we have one of the employees of the Attorney General's chambers, Ms. Serena Connor. I cannot say enough how much I can thank her for the work that she placed in this legislation, Mr. Speaker. Even on weekends and on her days off, she was working on this legislation, back and forth. And we thought we had gotten to an advanced stage of this legislation after speaking to all of the stakeholders. But there were snags along the way. And again, I'm saying this is not to lay blame on anybody, but there were a number of snags along the way. And anyone who can recall the press conferences that the Honorable Premier at the time, Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster, had, they will hear many a time where I stood there and promised that we would be bringing this Road Traffic Act amendment to the Parliament, that we were working assiduously on this, and we are very close to bringing it to this House, Mr. Speaker. It's been almost a year and a half since we have departed office, and it has not come to the House as yet. And again, I am not blaming the ruling Anguilla United Front administration, because the record will show, based on my original presentation, from 2020, 2021, we started to work on this legislation. So we are now in 2026, Mr. Speaker, almost in 2027, and we have not yet brought this to the House. So it says that it goes beyond the political persuasion and the will of the politicians to bring something like this to the House of Assembly. And I can tell you that I am very confident that the members of government are in full support of this Vehicle and Road Traffic Amendment Act. Everyone in this House are in full support of this Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, Mr. Speaker. So it begs the question, why is it that it took so long, or is taking so long, to come to this honorable parliament? And Mr. Speaker, I have gone on record to say that we have a tremendous amount of great public servants. But as you know, even in the best apple tree, there are rotten apples. And the best apple tree, sometimes when the great apples fall on the floor of the apple tree, some rotten apples fall amongst them and contaminate the great apples. So I'm not blaming anyone, but what I'm saying is that it is long overdue that this comes to the honorable parliament. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. One of the things that we must ensure, Mr. Speaker, is once this legislation comes to this honorable House within the next few weeks, Mr. Speaker, and is passed unanimously, once that is done, and the honorable Speaker assents to it, and it goes down to old time, Governor Crouch assents to it, then the responsibility becomes Commissioner of Police Robert Clark and his traffic department to ensure that enforcement of this legislation and associated regulations are done. Because too often, Mr. Speaker, too often, I must give Mr. Clark some credit again for putting out the stats and doing a tremendous job in terms of the work that the Royal Anguilla Police Force is doing in terms of marketing and promoting and showing the people a softer side of policing and so forth. But one of the things that we must be cognizant of is the fact that the government of Anguilla, through the taxpayers of Anguilla, have to spend a tremendous amount of money flying people overseas, Mr. Speaker. Flying people overseas because of the high number of vehicular accidents that we have in this country. It is no way that a country of less than 13,000 people should be having accidents every week. Mr. Speaker, I hate to go out on the road on a Friday and Saturday night. I'm afraid, to be honest with you. I have children, two of them are adults today, and I'm afraid for them to walk across the street, Mr. Speaker, and I swear to God on this, because the speeding and the reckless driving on our roads. And I know I'm not going to win any political points about this, because when we set out to do the Valley Main Road, a number of persons came to me upset with the medians because they said they could do drag racing on the Valley Main Road on a Sunday afternoon. And Mr. Speaker, so I know I'm not winning any political points with this, but I am looking out for your safety. You know, the thing is, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say this. When you're young, you don't have any fear. I look in the gallery and I see one of my farmer colleagues, and he can tell you how reckless I was when I was young. And Mr. Speaker, I have a motorcycle helmet home. Just a token of a reminder of my reckless days, Mr. Speaker. I have the burns and the scars and the lost friends to prove how reckless I was. But at that time, we didn't have much traffic. And I am very confident if I was reckless in my youth, today, I wouldn't be standing here today. As Dr. Webster would say, there would be lost potential. Because whatever they say about me, I am sure I've contributed something positive to Anguilla. And Mr. Speaker, we see the speeding. Don't talk about after 11 when the hospitality workers finish at work. Ooh. Ooh. And you see the bruises on the walls from the vehicles slamming into the walls. You see persons slamming into the backs of vehicles regularly because the person in the back could not slow down fast enough for the person in the front. You see roads being blocked because of all the vehicle and road traffic accidents because of the speeding. And I say that to say this. So even after we approve and agree to this legislative amendment, the enforcement aspect, Anguilla don't have any shortage of laws, Mr. Speaker. Do you know that there's legislation on our books that prohibits you from cutting down a fruit tree in your yard without seeking permission from the relevant authorities? That is on our books. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but what I'm saying is that I'm sure it has never been enforced. So when it comes to road safety, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, we see the videos, we see the pictures, we see the injuries, we pay for the injuries. I have a friend, Mr. Speaker, that owns a business in the vicinity of Rumcan, and she has some cameras on her business. And so often, for the last 5-6 years, she's been showing me footage and begging for a speed bump. And I keep saying to her, we cannot place speed bumps all along our main roads, because we also have to consider emergency services. We have to consider fire truck. We have to consider ambulances and so forth. We have to consider the police need to move quickly back and forth, Mr. Speaker. And if you have speed bumps along the main road, lives can also be lost. But I understand her pain. And it's not only her pain. The Honorable Premier, Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster, he can tell you that while we were in office, there was not a day from Island Harbor to West End that persons were not asking for speed bumps along the roads. The former chief engineer, Mr. Batty, cannot tell you enough how much times I have made requests for even pedestrian crossings, whether it be Sharkies in West End, because now you see the amount of business that they have, but vehicles care, drivers care, they don't care. Or whether it's by Lyman in South Hill, by J&J's, farm up J&J's Pizza, or whether it is in Island Harbor, just simple pedestrian crossing. Maybe it may not help, but at least it's there. But Mr. Speaker, enforcement. We also have legislation that prohibits truckers from driving on our roads with uncovered trucks. And I can tell you as a matter of someone who have witnessed it, from the orange trucks to the yellow trucks, from the blue trucks to the purple trucks, debris flying off the back of the trucks while they're driving. I've seen it. And don't tell me if I have seen it, if Lance have seen it, if Granville have seen it, the Royal Anguilla Police Force have not seen it. So again, as I sit, I'm just urging that once we agree on this, because I believe again that this will be universally agreed, that we must get in the practice of strict enforcement, because once you start to enforce it, you would see that things will come to order. Mr. Speaker, this island is a small island. I left home at 20 minutes to 10, and I was here 5 minutes before, and if you do the calculation, I did not break the speed limit. Anguilla is a small, as they would say, the old people would say, a small 2x4 island. There's no need for speed. There's no need to put you and your family and your children's lives at risk with the unwanted and indiscriminate speeding that we see on our roads, Mr. Speaker. So hopefully, Commissioner Clark, you are hearing this today, and you will get your troops out on the road, not only to seek to quell the scourge of gun violence, but also the other violence that is taking the lives of our people, and that is speeding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member. Are there any contributions towards this motion? I recognize the single island-wide member, Mr. Vanderpool.
Good morning once again, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to all of my honorable colleagues, those in the gallery, and all Anguillians who may be listening via the various mediums. So, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleague is indeed correct, because I do rise in support today of the intent of this motion. Any discussion that aims to improve the safety of our roads, protect Anguillians and their families, I believe is one that deserves serious consideration. Road safety affects every family and every household across Anguilla. And Mr. Speaker, as you know that we are all cousins by one way, shape, or form. That means it impacts every Anguillan because we are all family in terms of the way we congregate and relate to each other. And thus, issues such as this should never be a partisan issue. So I agree with my colleague on that point. So whether we're on this side of the House or the opposing side, I agree that today I think we'll be walking out of here with a unanimous support for protecting the lives of Anguillians going forward. Recent road traffic accidents have reminded us of the importance for road safety, responsible driving, as well as the need for a modern legislative framework which to be governed by. This month alone, Mr. Speaker, we have unfortunately had over 40 road traffic incidents recorded on our books. Over 40 road traffic accidents within this month alone. As a result, we have seen injuries of varying degree, and unfortunately, in some cases, lives lost way too soon, both unnecessary and avoidable. So, Mr. Speaker, while I support the objective of this motion, I believe that it's equally important that the public understands where we are in this process. The issues that lie before us today, they did not emerge overnight, and they did not originate with this motion. My honorable colleague across the aisle would have given some history and some context as some work that would have been done under his administration. And I agree with several of the points that he made. One, that includes that I, along with himself, and in fact, every member of this administration, Mr. Speaker, we cannot wait to see this legislation brought to the House and advanced. And that we also hope that once this legislation is advanced, it is passed through Parliament, that Commissioner Clark and the Royal Anguilla Police Force will then do what they are now empowered to do to enforce and protect the lives of all Anguillians. I also want to agree with him in highlighting the work of Ms. Serena Connor, who I know would have done a lot of work under his administration in advancing this and continues to work hard and as a stalwart in advancing this legislation further, along with our Attorney General, the Honorable Rachel Spearing. It's been a Herculean effort and we're almost at the finish line, but it has indeed taken a lot of work. There is one place where I disagree with my honorable colleague though, Mr. Speaker. He would have mentioned that the work on this legislation would have started in 2020 or 2021 thereabouts. And in looking into the historical context surrounding this legislation, I would just like to correct him, because upon examining the records, this legislation goes back as early as 2017. In 2017, work had already commenced to modernize aspects of the vehicle and road traffic legislation. The work at that time was undertaken by that administration with a focus largely on reforms related to transport governance, driver licensing, taxi regulation, and the administration of road transport. Thereafter, in 2018, Mr. Speaker, proposals relating to seat belts and child restraints were incorporated into the wider criminal justice reform bill, which sought to amend several pieces of legislation simultaneously, which included the Vehicle and Road Traffic Amendment Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I say this just as a point of clarification for the record, that successive governments, including the previous AUF administration, the previous APM administration, and now our administration of today, have clearly recognized the importance of strengthening the road safety legislation. And I acknowledge each of the contributions, including the earlier ones, including that of my predecessor. But as a matter of the record, I do think it was important to clarify that the work did start before. So, Mr. Speaker, in recognizing that there's one thing to see an issue and deliver comprehensive legislation to address that issue are two separate things. Legislation is not simply about identifying a worthy objective, Mr. Speaker. It's about developing a framework that is practical, enforceable, fair, and capable of achieving an outcome we all seek. Work which was advanced by my predecessor, and I thank him for, but work which still continues today, Mr. Speaker. That is precisely the work that our administration is currently undertaking. Since forming the government under the leadership of the Honorable Premier, Ms. Cora Richardson Hodge, we have not simply just continued the earlier discussions. We have significantly expanded upon them, Mr. Speaker. This matter forms a part of government's current legislative program, And over the past several months, extensive work has been undertaken by several stakeholders, including those by persons within my ministry, within the Attorney General's chambers, within the Royal Anguilla Police Force, within the taxi drivers who have recently met over the past few weeks to try and reconstitute and revitalize the Taxi Association in partnership with us, and many other stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, in order to develop a comprehensive reform of the Vehicle and Roads Traffic Amendment Act. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, the legislation will address the mandatory seatbelt issue. It will strengthen provisions related to child restraints. And yes, it will address driving under the influence, Mr. Speaker. But it goes beyond that. It also modernizes the wider legislative framework governing road safety, including driver licensing, learning permits, visitor licensing, governance arrangements, the role of the traffic commissioner, enforcement mechanisms, regulatory oversight, mobile phone use while driving, Mr. Speaker, because we do have an issue with texting and driving, penalties around violations, public education, and the systems which are necessary to ensure that these reforms can be effectively implemented, Mr. Speaker. In other words, we're not simply just proposing new offenses. We are modernizing the entire legislative framework. Good legislation, Mr. Speaker, requires more than just words on paper. It requires careful policy development, consultation with all stakeholders, operational planning, consideration of enforcement, and balancing public safety with both practicality and fairness. Questions such as how these provisions will be implemented, what exemptions may reasonably exist, how enforcement will occur, how the public will be educated and brought along, and how we encourage compliance rather than simply punishment. All of these matters have required and continue to receive detailed consideration. That is an example of responsible governance, Mr. Speaker. So I therefore welcome the fact that the honorable member has chosen to bring forward a motion that aligns well with work that is currently underplaced by this government. So far from being a response to today's motion, these reforms have been actively progressing for some time, with the most recent meeting taking place to advance this legislation and these reforms having taken place on Friday of last week, Mr. Speaker. So today's debate provides an opportunity to reassure the public and the people of Anguilla that government remains fully committed to bringing important legislation such as this before this honorable House. The purpose of this legislation, Mr. Speaker, is to save lives, and I believe that both sides of this honorable House is aligned that that is our objective. Around the world, decades of evidence have consistently demonstrated that seatbelt use significantly reduces fatalities and serious injuries, and that properly secured child restraint systems dramatically improve the chances of survival for our younger passengers. I know that the entire nation was shaken during a recent road incident in which a 2-year-old passed away, and we continue to ask for prayers for his young soul and for God's comfort upon his family, as well as for his parents who are currently seeking medical attention. These are not just political opinions, Mr. Speaker. These are well-established facts and have informed modern road safety legislation globally, and it is now Anguilla's time to catch up to that global mark. So, Mr. Speaker, government has a responsibility to provide modern legislation. The police have a responsibility to enforce it. Drivers, and I say this for the members of the listening public, drivers have a responsibility to obey it. Passengers have a responsibility to protect themselves and their loved ones who are driving with them. Parents have a responsibility to protect their children. Each of us has a role to play, and let's ensure that each of us plays it well. So before I close, Mr. Speaker, there's one other aspect of the Vehicle and Road Traffic Amendment Act that is also being addressed that members of the public may not appreciate, and I would like to highlight, as I was recently asked a question about it at our recent press conference. It has to do with the issue of chauffeur licenses and taxi licenses, Mr. Speaker. And right now, I know that there are a lot of persons within the taxi driving community who are disgruntled because they are seeing a lot of persons who are operating as chauffeurs
picking up persons from the ports who are not properly licensed and basically operating outside of the framework that should exist for taxi drivers. And so they want to know, what is it, how are we going about approving these chauffeur licenses? How are we allowing this to operate? And Mr. Speaker, again, it comes down to enforcement. But beyond enforcement, there seems to be a loophole in the system, Mr. Speaker. A lot of persons may buy a black vehicle, put on a C plate, and go to the port and say that they are a chauffeur. But, Mr. Speaker, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Transportation Board or any other body has issued them a chauffeur license to carry out chauffeuring business. So the question is, how is it being done? Because how are they getting the C plates? How are they coming to the ports? And that's a distinction that needs to be clarified, Mr. Speaker. If you get a taxi license, you are now able to, you drive a T plate, you're distinguished as a taxi, and you're able to have chauffeurs work under your establishment as a taxi. But a chauffeur license, Mr. Speaker, does not mean, just because you have a C plate does not mean you have a chauffeur license. Under our current licensing regime, which falls under this legislation that we're looking forward to modernizing, C stands for commercial or company plate, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, take for example, if I'm operating my Airbnbs and I decide that I need to get a vehicle for use for my private business, under my business license that has to do with accommodation, I can go and register for a commercial or company plate. And the vehicle that I go to register, they will issue me a C plate, Mr. Speaker. So if I happen to go and buy a black sedan, issue a C plate on it, and say, buy things a little slow, let me go down to the port and put on a black shirt, and then improperly pretend to be a chauffeur, that's where the issue is, Mr. Speaker, because I can assure you that upon taking office in March of 2025, the Transportation Board of the previous administration had not issued any taxi licenses or any chauffeur licenses since April of 2024. That's just a fact, Mr. Speaker. And the reason that I'm saying that is not to cast blame, it's not a positive or negative. The last time any taxi or chauffeur licenses were issued was April of 2024. Under our administration, we would have revitalized and reconstituted the Transportation Board, which would have first met in September of last year, Mr. Speaker. And there was a gap in the number of taxi licenses based on the limit that could be issued and those that were currently issued at the time. So the board would have issued some 30-something plus licenses to bring it back up to that limit. And those are taxi licenses, Mr. Speaker. To this day, we have taxi drivers approaching us and saying, how are these people getting chauffeur licenses? But I want to state for the public and for a matter of the record, Mr. Speaker, that since taking office, no chauffeur licenses have been issued under this administration via the Transport Board. That means that the last time any chauffeur licenses have been issued was in April of 2024, Mr. Speaker. But the problem still continues to exist and to propagate. And that's just one aspect of the legislation that is being addressed under this comprehensive framework that we are currently reforming, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's important to include that, again, this goes beyond the seatbelts, it goes beyond driving under the influence, it goes beyond child restraints, all of which, Mr. Speaker, are very important and critical aspects that deserves advancing. But I just wanted to make it clear for the listening public that the reforms that we are speaking about today are wide-ranging and go far beyond those three issues. So, Mr. Speaker, in closing, I want to reiterate that I support the spirit as well as the intent of this motion. I do so because it reflects an objective that the government has already embraced, that previous administrations across successive governments have embraced, and has been actively working to advance throughout substantive legislative reform. This is not the beginning of the journey, Mr. Speaker, and nor should it be seen as the end. It is another important milestone in the process that has evolved over many years, strengthened by successive administrations, and is now brought to its most advanced stage through the comprehensive work currently being undertaken by this government and the several stakeholders involved. I look forward, Mr. Speaker, to bringing the completed legislation before this honorable House in due course, and I trust when that time comes, members on both sides of this honorable House will once again unite in support of this legislation that will make our roads safer, protect our families, and better serve the people of Anguilla. I thank the honorable member for bringing this motion, and Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to support of it.
Thank you, member. Are there any? I recognize the member for District Number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Pleasure to be here. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the former Minister for Infrastructure, member for Road South, for during our administration, pushing for this legislation. I want to thank Serena Khanna in the AG chambers for all the efforts that she made to try to get this completed so it could come to the to our cabinet, to the Executive Council, and then to the House. Mr. Speaker, it seems that we will be burdened and bogged down by severe inertia if we wait for a complete bill to protect the lives of our people, and especially our children. We are one of the few jurisdictions, countries, that have not enacted modern laws to protect our people on the road in terms of seat belts, child restraints, child seats. Mr. Speaker, I remember back after the former minister had brought this to our attention, asked for legislation to be done, and there were public consultations. And one of the things that came up is that Anguilla was not culturally ready for seat belts and child restraints and child seats. And Mr. Speaker, I was very confused and wondered. And someone raised the issue that Anguillians, not all Anguillians have cars, and we don't have a bus service, and persons catch lifts. And so if a lady is on the side of the road with a child, and you are driving by and you want to give them a lift, can you then stop and pick up that lady and her child if you didn't have a child seat in your car to accommodate the child? And this became a big issue, that we were not culturally ready because of our kindness of our people and drivers to accommodate this legislation. And so we wait until persons have died or have become maimed or crippled for life before we give this the consideration that is necessary. And I think this is ludicrous. And I want to thank the member for Road South for raising this motion, because I think it's high time. We do not have to miss the forest for the trees or feel that we have to have a comprehensive bill before we can enact legislation that will save the lives and save the potential of our people. We spend most of our medical treatment overseas funds in sending persons away because they have had injuries from car accidents. We can't wait for more, whether you have a C plate or a T plate. We can't wait for licensing legislation or whether the fees should be doubled like they were in 2011 and then changed back. We can't wait to determine whether we should have speed bumps on the road, or this comprehensive legislation that the member, the island-wide member, the current Minister for Infrastructure is proposing. I know in Anguilla we have this thing, we are afraid to offend. But sometimes the people have elected us to make these hard decisions because government is there to do for ourselves, to do for us what we can't do for ourselves. And sometimes government has to take the heavy hand and make these decisions that are necessary. We now have better roads. Well, some. We're still behind on others that were paused and reassessed and not carried forward. And that require modern laws, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are aware that there are jurisdictions where if you sit behind the wheel of the car and the driver's side and you don't have your seatbelt on, as long as that engine is running, even if you're parked, that you are in violation. Jurisdictions right next door in St. Martin require seatbelts. Antigua requires seatbelts. Why are we so not vulnerable and indestructible that we don't enforce seatbelt laws? But I also want to get to the scourge that is also killing our people, and that is driving under the influence. And we are hearing now, and maybe because it was just carnival time and we've had a lot of underage drinking, but we see that it's necessary that we have to clamp down. Well, Commissioner Clark and his officers have to clamp down. And we, as the concerned citizens, have to point out that you can't have persons driving under the influence and putting themselves and others in jeopardy. We can't have persons driving with open containers of alcohol. Yeah, this was good, and back in the day, it was acceptable, and we could, boast about it. But now we are costing not only ourselves and our communities, but we are costing the people of Anguilla, not only because we lose the potential of the persons who become crippled or who die, but we also put others in jeopardy when we are indiscriminate in the use of alcohol, and especially when controlling not only, say, a scooter member or a motorcycle, but think about those big trucks, those concrete, those that are going up the hill and then swerving all around and sloshing the concrete about on the road and then making it unsafe for others. But some of them also, got the open cans, whether it's Milwaukee or otherwise, or those, I don't want to single out any specific brand because, then I might get sued for that, right? But I'm just saying, it is time. And so I am in full support of this motion, but I'd like to see legislation come in urgently, because I too have sat with Serena Connor and know that the legislation is ready pertaining to seat belts, child restraints, and child seats, that it can come now to the House of Assembly. It doesn't have to wait for the other aspects. I know certainly a comprehensive bill is what is essential, and that can come in time. This will suffer the fate of other pieces of legislation that are waiting for comprehensive legislation. And we were guilty of that. We started the Senior Shield and Junior Shield, but we wanted a comprehensive national health insurance. And we were waiting to get that through the AG chambers. And that took a while. One, because we didn't have an AG for a long time. And two, because persons were inundated with other aspects of legislation in other areas. And we had COVID that required lots of regulations and legislation that changed almost on a daily basis during 2021 and early 2022. And so I am saying we cannot continue to fail our people because we want perfect. So let us now, I appeal to the government side to get the legislation to the House that pertains to child restraints, child seats, seat belts that are mandatory, legislation, severe penalties, and when there is a violation of these laws, and also the use of alcohol, open containers, the use of other, drugs that may cause and affect persons' ability to function when they're driving that piece of steel that can become a weapon. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member. Are there any other contributions to this motion? If there are no other contributions to this motion, I ask the mover of the motion to respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. All I say is that I'm grateful to all members of the House for supporting this motion. And I believe that we are all aligned. And it shows that there's more that unifies us than divides us, Mr. Speaker. And hopefully, within the next few weeks, we will see this motion, this substantive bit of legislative change, the Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, tabled in this honorable House for approval. Thank you very much, members. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member. I put the question that motion 12/2026-2/13 HOA becomes a resolution of this honorable House. Those in favor? Say aye. Those against? This motion 12/2026-2/13 HOA is now a resolution of this honorable House.
Personal explanations? None. Other business, government business? A bill for the Business Companies Amendment Act 2026, second reading.
I recognize the member for District Number 2, Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you. Good morning to you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to the members of this honorable House, members visiting us in the gallery, and viewers online and via social media. Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Business Companies Amendment Act 2026 be read a second time. And Mr. Speaker, in terms of an explanation, if I may be granted leave to make a
Do we have a
general
seconder?
state- Thank you.
I rise to second, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may be granted leave to make a general statement in terms of the 6 pieces of financial services legislation we have before the House today.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to present a package of 6 bills which form part of government's continuing work to strengthen Anguilla's corporate, regulatory, and international tax transparency framework. While the bills amend different pieces of legislation, they are connected by a common objective: to ensure that Anguilla has clear obligations, effective supervision, and practical enforcement mechanisms, and that our wider financial services legislation operates as a coherent framework. The package comprises the Business Companies Amendment Bill, the Limited Liability Company Amendment Bill, the Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Bill, the Anguilla Foundation Amendment Bill, the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, and the Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendments Bill. Mr. Speaker, an important part of the context of these reforms is Anguilla's assessment by the Global Forum on Transparency and Exchange of Information for Tax Purposes under the International Standard for Exchange of Information on Request, commonly referred to as EOIR. In 2020, Anguilla received an overall rating of non-compliant. That rating was serious, but it is important to understand what principally drove it. The Global Forum identified 2 major areas of failure: the availability of accounting information on Anguillan entities and arrangements, and deficiencies in Anguilla's exchange of information experiences. That assessment arose during an exceptional review period in which Anguilla experienced a sharp and unusual increase in exchange of information requests, most of them linked to entities serviced through the same international corporate services network following a major global disclosure event. The subsequent abrupt closure of that service provider created significant difficulties in accessing records required to respond to those requests. Those circumstances materially affected Anguilla's performance during that review period. Since then, our response times and effectiveness have improved significantly. The principal outstanding issue now is the availability of accounting information, and that is where much of the current reform effort is focused. The accounting information issue is particularly important. The international standard does not simply ask whether our laws say that an entity must keep accounts. It asks whether reliable accounting records and the underlying documentation are actually maintained and can be obtained by the competent authority when required, including where records are kept outside Anguilla, where an entity has been struck off, dissolved, or liquidated, and where it re-domiciles out of Anguilla, or where a service provider ceases to operate. In 2023, following a supplementary review, Anguilla's overall rating improved from non-compliant to partially compliant. That was progress. The rating for the effectiveness and timeliness of our exchange of information processes improved, but the element dealing with the availability of accounting information remained rated non-compliant. That remains one of the most significant outstanding weaknesses in our EOIR framework. The latest enhanced monitoring report, adopted by the Global Forum in June 2026, does not assign Anguilla a new overall rating. Rather, it assesses the steps we have taken since the 2023 review. Of the 14 recommendations being monitored, 2 were considered provisionally addressed, 7 were in the process of being addressed, and 5 had not yet been addressed. There is a positive story in that report which we should recognize. During the 2023-2024 monitoring period, Anguilla received 5 requests for information from 4 international partners. Full and final responses were provided in every case within 90 days, and the peers that had exchange of information experience with Anguilla were generally satisfied. The recommendations dealing with the organization and timelines of our exchange processes are now therefore considered provisionally addressed, subject to detailed validation. That improvement reflects deliberate work within government. The International Tax Cooperation Unit is fully staffed. An updated exchange of information manual is being implemented. Staff training has continued, and case management and monitoring of response timelines have been strengthened. But, Mr. Speaker, the enhanced monitoring report is equally clear that the accounting information work is not finished. The 2 recommendations specifically dealing with the availability of accounting information, one concerning the legal framework and one concerning supervision and enforcement in practice, remain not addressed for the purposes of the monitoring exercise. This is where the legislation before the House today becomes particularly relevant. First, the Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Bill gives the registrar a proper statutory framework to supervise and enforce compliance. It enables the registrar to require information and documents, conduct inspections and site visits, obtain explanations, issue notices to comply, and impose civil penalties where obligations are not met. The bill is important because one of the deficiencies identified through the EOIR process was that legal obligations existed without a sufficiently effective mechanism to monitor whether entities were actually keeping the required information and to enforce those obligations where they were not. The registrar's powers are accompanied by safeguards. Information must be reasonably required for the performance of the registrar's statutory functions. Legal professional privilege is protected. Site visits are subject to reasonable cause and reasonable notice. Before substantive civil penalty is imposed, the affected person or entity has the right to be told the proposed penalty and the reasons for it, to make representations, and ultimately to appeal to the High Court. Second, the Business Companies Limited Liability Company and Anguilla Foundation Amendment Bills support that supervisory framework by replacing specified criminal sanctions for certain administrative and regulatory breaches with civil penalties that can be applied by the registrar. This should not be misunderstood as weakening compliance. It is intended to make enforcement more effective. Where a breach is administrative in nature, for example, a failure relating to corporate records, accounting records, or other statutory obligations, a regulator should be able to identify the breach, require correction, and impose a proportionate sanction without depending in every case on criminal prosecution. Mr. Speaker, these bills address an important part of the accounting information problem, particularly the need for meaningful supervision and enforcement. They are not, however, the end of the EOIR reform program, and I do not want to overstate what is being achieved today. Further legislative work is being progressed to ensure that accounting records are available in all circumstances, including where records are maintained outside Anguilla and where an entity is struck off, liquidated, redomiciled, or otherwise ceases to exist. The objective must be that the competent authority can obtain reliable accounting information in a timely manner, regardless of what has happened to the entity or its service provider. There is also continuing work in other areas identified through the EOIR process. This includes strengthening the availability of legal and beneficial ownership information, including nominee shareholder arrangements, partnerships, and the identification of beneficial owners of bank account holders, improving oversight of trusts and non-professional trustees, and continuing to strengthen the practical use of our access and enforcement powers, including in relation to struck-off entities. The wider reform program is therefore not simply about passing legislation. The Global Forum is looking for evidence that the framework works in practice. Inspections must occur. Records must actually be available. Breaches must be identified and addressed. And when a legitimate request for information is received from an international partner, Anguilla must be able to obtain information and provide it fully and promptly. Third, the two miscellaneous amendments bills complete important work arising from the financial services reforms enacted in 2024. The Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 replaced the former Company Management Act, and the Offshore Banking Act 2024 replaced the former Trust Companies and Offshore Banking Act. The bills before us now update references and definitions across the wider statute book so that related acts, regulations, orders, and codes properly reflect those new frameworks. The Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendments Bill makes consequential changes across legislation dealing with foundations, companies, utility tokens, beneficial ownership, insurance, limited liability companies, partnerships, trusts, anti-money laundering requirements, and related regulatory matters. The Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendments Bill similarly updates the relevant company, partnership, money services, trusts, economic substance, and anti-money laundering provisions to reflect the Offshore Banking Act 2024. These amendments are principally technical, but they matter. A modern regulatory framework cannot operate properly if repealed legislation and obsolete licensing references remain embedded across the statute book. Mr. Speaker, the direction of travel is clear. Anguilla moved from an overall non-compliant rating in 2020 to partially compliant in 2023. We have now demonstrated significant improvement in the quality and timelines and timeliness of our exchange of information processes. At the same time, the availability of accounting information remains a major area in which further action is required. Government accepts that challenge. Our objective is to address the outstanding recommendations, demonstrate that the strengthened framework is working in practice, and position Anguilla for further improvement in its EOIR rating. But this is not simply about improving a rating for its own sake. For a small international financial center, credibility is an economic asset. Strong regulation and a competitive financial services industry are not opposing objectives. A jurisdiction that is well regulated, responsive to international standards, and able to demonstrate effective compliance is a jurisdiction in which reputable business can have confidence. Mr. Speaker, I wish to acknowledge the work of the Anguilla Financial Services Commission, including its Commercial Registry Department, the International Tax Corporation Unit in the Ministry, the Attorney General's Chambers, and the officials who continue to advance this program of reform. There is more work ahead. The legislation before the House today is an important step, and government will continue the wider program necessary to strengthen the availability of information, improve effective supervision and enforcement, and demonstrate Anguilla's commitment to the international standards expected of a responsible financial services jurisdiction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member, for that overall comprehensive explanation of the series of bills. I now invite our debate on the merit and principles of the bill, a bill for the Business Companies Amendment Act 2026. I recognize the member for District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Premier has outlined the objects and reasons for these 6 amendments which are upcoming, and certainly appreciated that there was one explanation given for all, because otherwise we'd be here until Friday if we had to go through the same thing on each one. The intent is this didn't just start, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when your boss and the former Premier signed the MOU for financial stability and COVID relief on June 11 of 2020, one of the conditions in there was that Anguilla should move towards a largely compliant status. As the Premier just mentioned, Anguilla was non-compliant with the OECD at that time. But this went back to 2017 with the Panama Papers, and I don't know if we all remember Mossack Fonseca, and when they left the shores of Anguilla, it was difficult to get records, and that because of that non-compliance with being able to, the records not being readily available, Anguilla was pushed to a non-compliant status, but also was, Anguilla got to a state of being blacklisted with the European Union. Now, I remember when this happened, I reached out to, at that time, Minister for Financial Services and Commerce at the Cayman Islands. It was the now Premier, Mr. Andre Ebanks. And they had experience with getting the Cayman Islands off these, being blacklisted previously. And they have a much bigger financial services, than we do, or ever will have. I know that back in the early 90s, Anguilla, 20% of Anguilla's revenue came from financial services. And we are a mere drop in the bucket now to where we were. And for whatever reason that happened, that we lost that ability to have financial services be a significant revenue stream, and that the history books will bear that out. There are certainly many explanations of that London came calling. Another reason why we need to, be able to float our own boat and raise our own flag, Mr. Speaker. I see the flag there on your left, which represents Anguilla in its own right. But because of this blacklisting, Anguilla then became put in the crosshairs. And we do know that then came the necessity where you had to have public registry of interested parties, and that act was just recently passed. We delayed that as much as possible because we felt that to improve our financial services, there had to be somewhere where we followed international standards. And we know the EU had certain issues and court cases that did not require that, all entities would have access to the registry of, who were the beneficiaries in the companies. And that was debated among all the overseas territories. And And I decided back then that we would follow the Cayman Islands. And they were pushing, that down. And there were deadlines given that came and went. And I certainly saw that it was recently passed here in the Anguilla House of Assembly. So I think MP Hodge got her wish. That is MP in England, not. And so we are here now where we're looking to be more compliant. And I know that Financial Service Commission has done a lot of work on this. And I want to thank the director who is here in the gallery. I want to know that because the Business Companies Act, the Modernized Business Company Act that came to this House and then was amended in this House and now is being amended again to become compliant. Because, as I said, based on the conditions in the MOU of 2020, it said we had to move towards being largely compliant, and I think that's, if we're not there yet, that's where we are headed so that we can meet these international requirements, so that we can improve, enhance our financial services, and therefore be able to stand up. Because even though we are a small jurisdiction, we have the same requirements as any other jurisdiction that does financial services. And so these amendments that we have here talks about fees and about civil penalties rather than it having to wait for a criminal conviction. And I think this is important because sometimes being able to prove that intents were criminal can take a while, requires lots of investigation, but civil penalties can be imposed. And then if we find that they were imposed unnecessarily, then you can always pay back. And so I am in total agreement here and certainly will support these amendments as they come forward piece by piece. But just want to say that this is all necessary. The whole framework is necessary so that we can enhance, improve, have a more robust financial services, and Anguilla becomes more attractive to companies. And as we go through, we'll see international businesses, LLCs, and then offshore banking. That's still on the books, even though we do have a history there in terms of NBA, PB&T, and the CCB, CCIB. So I think that comes up in part of the legislation later. But for now, I want to say that I'm in full support of these amendments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member. Are there other contributions to this bill? If there are no other contributions, may I ask the mover of the motion to respond? The mover of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Island Harbor for his contribution and for the full support of this Honorable House in relation to this bill.
Thank you very much, member. I put the question that the bill entitled "A Bill for the Business Company Act, Amendment Act 2026" be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to provide for the replacement of criminal offenses with civil penalties for certain breaches under the Business Companies Act and for related matters.
I now refer this bill to the Committee of the Whole House to be considered clause by clause. House and committee.
Clauses 1 through 14.
I put the question that the clauses 1 through 14 forms part of this bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I call upon this honorable House, I put the question that the schedule, the title, and enactment be accepted as is. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This House now resumes its sitting. I ask the mover to report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled the Business Companies Amendment Act 2026 has passed through committee without amendment and is ready for its third reading.
A bill for Business Companies Amendment Act 2026, third reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill entitled A Bill for the Business Companies Amendment Act 2026 be read a third time and passed.
Is there
I
a
rise to
second?
second, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question that the bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Business Companies Amendment Act 2026 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
Act to provide for the replacement of criminal offenses with civil penalties for certain breaches under the Companies Act and for related matters. Bill for Limited Liability Company Amendment Act 2026, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Limited Liability Company Amendment Act 2026 be read a second time.
Seconder.
I rise to second, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in terms of the objects and reasons, I hereby propose that the statement initially made be applied to this aspect of the bill for the Limited Liability Company Amendment Act 2026.
Thank you, member. I now invite debate on the merit and principles of the bill for Limited Liability Company Amendment Act 2026. Are there any contributions? If there are no contributions, I ask the mover to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank also the members of this honorable House for their support. Mr. Speaker, it has been moved and seconded. Oh, sorry. I think that's.
I put the question that the bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Limited Liability Company Amendment Act 2026 be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to provide for the amendment to the Limited Liability Company Act to replace criminal offenses, create civil penalties for breach of certain obligations under the Act, and for related matters.
I now refer this bill to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause.
Clauses 1 through 4.
Clauses 1 through 4 be accepted as printed in the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause be accepted as printed in the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This assembly will now resume its sitting, and I ask the mover to report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to report that the bill entitled A Bill for the Limited Liability Company Amendment Act 2026 has passed through committee without amendment and is ready for its third reading.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question that the bill, shortly entitled A Bill for Limited Liability Company Amendment Act 2026, be read a third time. Those and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to provide for the amendment to the Limited Liability Company Act to replace criminal offenses, create civil penalties for breach of certain obligations under the act, and for related matters. A bill for Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Act 2026, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Act 2026 be read a second time.
Seconder?
Yes, I rise to second, Mr. Speaker.
The bill has been moved and seconded. I now invite debate on the merit and principles of this bill. Are there any contributions? If there are none, I will ask the member to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to thank the members of this honorable House for their support of this bill.
I put the question that the bill, shortly entitled A Bill for the Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Act 2026, be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to confer powers on the Registrar of Companies to better provide for inspection of and compliance by certain entities that are registered in Anguilla and for connected purposes.
I now refer this bill to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause.
Clauses 1 through 19.
Call upon this House I do ask this honorable House if the clauses 1 through 19 do stand as part of this bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The schedule.
The schedule. Does the schedule of this bill stand as part of this bill? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
The title and the enacting clause of this bill do stand as part of this bill before this honorable House. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. I'll ask the mover to report.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled The Bill for the Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Act 2026 has passed through committee without amendment and it's ready for its third reading.
A bill for Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Act 2026, third reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill entitled A Bill for the Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Act 2026 be read a third time and passed.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question that the bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Registrar of Companies Compliance Measures Act 2026 be read a third time and pass. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to confer powers on the Registrar of Companies to better provide for inspection of and compliance by certain entities that are registered in Anguilla and for connected purposes. A bill for Anguilla Foundation Amendment Act 2026, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Anguilla Foundation Amendment Act 2026 be read a second time.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, I rise the second, Mr. Speaker.
I now invite debate on merit and principles of this bill. If there's no contribution or debate on this particular bill, I now call upon the mover of the bill.
Thank you, Mr.
reply.
Speaker, and I thank the members of this honorable house for their support.
I put the question that this bill, a bill for the Anguilla Foundation Amendment Act 2026, be read a second time. All those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to provide for the replacement of criminal offenses with civil penalties for certain breaches under the Anguilla Foundation Act.
I now refer this bill to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause.
Clauses 1 through 4.
Clauses 1 through 4. Are they accepted as printed in the bill? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
The title and the enacting clause be accepted by this honorable House as printed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This assembly will now resume its sitting, and I call upon the mover of the bill to report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled A Bill for the Anguilla Foundation Amendment Act 2026 has passed through committee without amendment and is ready for its third reading.
A bill for Anguilla Foundation Amendment Act 2026, third reading.
Is there a seconder?
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill entitled A Bill for the Anguilla Foundation Amendment Act 2026 be read a third time and passed.
I rise the second, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Anguilla Foundation Amendment Act 2026 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to provide for the replacement of criminal offenses with civil penalties for certain breaches under the Anguilla Foundation Act. A bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026 be read a second time.
I rise the second, Mr. Speaker.
The bill has been moved and seconded. I now invite debate on the merits and principles of the bill. If there's no debate, No contribution to this bill. I now ask the mover to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I wish to thank the members of this honorable House for their full support on this bill.
I put the question that the bill, now entitled A Bill for the Trust and Corporation Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendment Act 2026, be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to amend various acts and regulations to give effect to and make consequential amendments arising from the enactment of the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 and to provide for related and incidental matters.
I now refer this bill to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause.
Clauses 1 through 31.
Clauses 1 through 31 be accepted as printed in this bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
The title and the enacting clause be accepted by this honorable House as printed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This assembly now resumes its sitting, and I call upon the mover to report.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled "A Bill for the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026 has passed through committee without amendment and is ready for its third reading.
A bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026, third reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill entitled "A Bill for the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026 be read a third time and passed.
Is there a second, though?
So rise the second, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question that the bill shortly entitled A Bill for the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Miscellaneous Amendment Act 2026 be read a third time and pass. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I now call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to amend various acts and regulations to give effect to and make consequential amendments arising from the enactment of the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 and to provide for related and incidental matters. A bill for offshore banking, Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill shortly entitled "A Bill for the Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026 be read a second time.
I rise the second, Mr. Speaker.
The bill has been read and seconded. I now invite debate on the merits and principles of this bill. Any contributions? I recognize the member for District 6.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give my support to this amendment. I believe this has been a glorious house. It's always fascinating when you sit on that chair, Mr. Speaker. Everyone seems to agree and to be on one accord. So I'm very happy to be here today. But Mr. Speaker, as I look on the other paper and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 amendments to this legislation relating to the financial services sector, I often hearken to the good old days back in the 1970s and early 1980s, Mr. Speaker, when the government of Anguilla, through the Ministry of Finance, had full control and jurisdiction over the offshore financial sector. And the money was flowing into the treasury more so than hospitality, more so than tourism. And people were gaining jobs, employment, the legal professions start to grow in Anguilla because we in Anguilla, the people of Anguilla, the government of Anguilla, had full control over the financial services sector. But lo and behold, in the very early 1980s, somewhere in the region around 1981, we had some constitutional amendments. And then further on, we had further constitutional amendments, Mr. Speaker, where the British government said, you know, the offshore financial services would be better under us. So I think that we should amend the Constitution so that it will become part of our remit. And the Constitution was amended. And when that Constitution was amended, Mr. Speaker, it gave the British government, through the governor, full control over the offshore financial sector. And so much so that the Constitution states that we can't even inquire into it. But here we are today, making amendments to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different aspects of the offshore financial sector. To satisfy who? Not Anguilla. To satisfy those first world countries that has Delaware, that has Liechtenstein, that has Switzerland, that has London, the world leading money laundering center, Mr. Speaker. So what does that say to you? The British government has never cared about us. The British government has never loved us. We must never forget how we got here. We must never forget how we use our own wit to develop these services. We must never forget the famines that killed our forebears. And when we cried out for help, they said, in their parliament, not a single white man dwell among. And they said they would ship us all off to British Guiana, another British colony. But our forebears said, no, we staying on this rock. We staying on this rock. And whenever there's an opportunity that they can gain and earn from us, they do so. We must never forget it was the West India Company who went to Sombrero and signed a deal with the American government to take all of the fertilizer, the guano, from Sombrero to refertilize the tobacco fields and the cotton fields of North and South Carolina and the US, Mr. Speaker. Valued at millions of dollars in today's money. We must never forget that was not the British government who gave us an airport, but it was the Americans during the Second World War who decided to have a strip here on our jurisdiction, Mr. Speaker. So what did they do? They took away our financial services sector from us to the point where all we do is get a little trickle in every so often, and we have to comply to their mandates, Mr. Speaker. So we have to come to this house to ensure that we are not blacklisted. And every so often, there's another change. Every so often, there's another amendment. Not because we want to do so, but because they insist that we must do so. So while it is that we stand here in full solidarity for the amendments, the question is, what is the ROI? What is the return on investment? What do we get out of it? I heard an interview by the governor recently talking about the millions of dollars that they have spent in Anguilla. That pales in comparison to the reparations that I seek. That pales in comparison to the reparations that you deserve. That pales in comparison to what they have taken. And the fact of the matter is that only when we beg and plead on our hands graveling did they assist in the case of Hurricane Irma. And then what did they do? They gave us conditions. In the case of the COVID, they said, well, we will give you 100 million EC dollars to take you over, but this is what you have to do. You have to implement GST. You have to ensure that you don't give your people no help through duty-free concessions. Because if every dollar that you gave your people in assistance, we will take it away from you. This is the legacy and the truth of the government of the United Kingdom, Mr. Speaker. So we must be cognizant of that. We must understand what we are dealing with. So, Mr. Speaker, while it is that I am full support, I just wanted to lay on the record my views as it relates to the financial services sector and what we have to comply with to satisfy their misgivings. Because you know what they say? They say, well, we are responsible for your external affairs. We are responsible for your consular affairs. We are responsible for your good governance. But if that is the case, then why don't you fight them when it comes to us being blacklisted? Why is it that we have to do it? Why is it that they, who have full constitutional authority over the financial services, don't have to ensure that when it comes to the OECD and those first world nations, that we are always on the white list? Maybe we need to flip it around and say blacklist is good and white list is bad. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member. Are there any other contributions to this bill? If there aren't any, I'll ask the mover to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Road South for his contributions. And I'm happy that he is actually a member of the Constitutional Committee, which was established under this administration. I look forward to the report and the findings of that report, particularly as it relates to the financial services sector. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all of the members of this Honorable House for their support on this bill.
Thank you, member. I put the question that the bill, a bill for Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026, be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to amend various acts, regulations, orders, and codes to give effect to and make consequential amendments arising from the enactment of the Offshore Banking Act 2024 and to provide for related and incidental matters.
I now refer this bill to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause.
Clauses 1 through 21.
I put the question that clauses 1 through 21 do stand part of this bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and enacting clause do stand part of this bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This assembly will now resume its sitting. I ask the mover to report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to report that the bill entitled A Bill for the Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026 has passed through committee without amendment and is ready for its third reading.
A bill for Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026, third reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that a bill entitled A Bill for the Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2026 be read a third time and passed.
Is there a seconder?
I rise as second, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Offshore Banking Miscellaneous Amendment Act 2026 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to amend various acts, regulations, orders, and codes to give effect to and make consequential amendments arising from the enactment of the Offshore Banking Act 2024 and to provide for related and incidental matters. Private members' bills? None. Private bills? None. Other orders of the day?
I recognize the member for District Number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sadly, we recognize the passing of Mr. Wilkins Smith of Island Harbor, a revolutionary hero, who was one of the brave souls who ventured to St. Kitts on June 10 of 1967 and became imprisoned trying to protect our little island, to ensure that Mr. Robert Bradshaw did not, come to Anguilla to wreak the havoc which he had intended for our people. And so it is with heavy heart that we recognize his passing and his contribution. And this morning, as I was in Island Harbor, someone said there are only 2 of those heroes left who endured prison in St. Kitts for Anguilla. We have lost 3 of the 5. And that is sad, that we are losing our revolutionary heroes. And I see on Anguilla Day, usually we are giving awards for more social development now. And it just shows that those who sacrifice themselves for the country, are reaching to that stage where they're getting older. And I don't think that we have recognized them enough, Mr. Speaker. Their contribution is why we are here today in this House, being able to enact and pass legislation to continue to protect Anguilla as we make it inhabitable for generations to come. And so for his family, I'd like to thank them for their contribution and for their, as they mourn, give, our condolences. Others who have passed, Ms. Sandra Hodge from East End, who, was an immigration officer. She has passed. Want to wish condolences to her family. And of course, Ms. Kimberly Fleming, who gone too soon, who stood with us in the 2020 election. Mr. Speaker, it's sometimes a burden that we carry when we can't do anything for those we see who are suffering, the scourge of cancer and NCDs. We want to do better, and we have to do better, and whatever we can to make sure that better is done, we have to do, being in this position that we're in. Also, Commonwealth athletes who represented Anguilla well in Scotland, want to, say congratulations to them. And Zonell Hughes, I know his cousin here to the left of me will have more to say about his accomplishments. And then I was reading recently about Anguillians who are not only representing Anguilla, but they are in other parts of the world, in politics and medicine and other areas, that are making us proud to know that we are small, but we continue to punch above our weight. And so I am proud, wherever I am in the world, to say that I'm Anguillian, because, Anguillians continue to make us feel good. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. We are under any other orders of the day, and I believe it is appropriate for members to, share their comments with any other orders that you may think about. I recognize the member for District 7.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for me, it's bittersweet, the fact that we lost Kimberly Fleming over the last week. Kimberly Fleming was my god sister. She was also my opponent in 2020 at the general election. But for the most part of the politics in West End, we don't try to go into the gutter. We try to our best to do what is best for the people, and it's not about attacking each other. Yes, she has gone too soon, but while she was here, she made a contribution. She was not one that would shout from the rooftops, but she was one that would help those without being given the admiration for it. So, yeah. In Western, Mr. Speaker, at the Rogers Well, there are some people from Stony Ground who try to claim fame to it. You've got a big flag, and we know that normally when the flag is at half-mast, is for those who are regarded as dignitaries. To date, I have not had any criticism of us in West End lowering the flag at half-mast when one of our dignitaries have passed. And not because Kimberly was a candidate in the general election. It applies to everybody in West End. And I almost wish, Mr. Speaker, that in other districts the same would happen. Because when Mr. Wilkins Smith passed in Island Harbor, I think it would have been great for the flag in Island Harbor to be at half-mast. And why the flag? In the past, Mr. Speaker, the bell would toll at the Methodist Church. Times have moved on, the bell wasn't operating, so now it's the flag. And that's our way of telling our people in our community that someone has passed. That was the bitter. The sweet, Mr. Speaker, is that on Sunday, we celebrated 100 years for a senatorian, that is Leonie Richardson of Long Bay. And we're quite asked the question, why is she living to be 100 when today we're struggling to have what should be a young and fit young people not making it to 30 or 40 or 50? So I think that is something we need to ask. And I'm sure many people have asked her that question. And Mr. Speaker, the turnout there was very impressive. It was impressive because it was not just about the age that she lived to, but the quality of life that she's lived. The influence and the positive influence that she would have had on our community, the community of Long Bay, West End, Meads Bay. So again, to her and her family, we thank God for their long life that she would have had. And of course, to Mr. Wilkins Smith, you talk about 1967. There are not many of us in this house, Mr. Speaker, who could say we remembered what was happening back then because we were there. And not in St. Kitts, but we were the ones who were trimming our lamps at that time. So to him and all those who would have played a role, some went above and beyond, but we respect what they've done, what they've contributed to Anguilla. I just wish that we as a people, Mr. Speaker, not just respect those of the past, but respect those of today, because I think far too often we're lacking in that sense. To the family of Sandra Hodge, I coached her son, we used to call him Spoonie, a young cricketer, and she was the mother who was always there to give her support, to give the support to him, not just to him, but to our team. So again, offer condolences to that family. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity, and also on Sunday, Miss Anguilla, Miss Caribbean, turned up. She went to Guyana and brought back the crown, which is, again, and very impressive. I know my colleague, the honorable member for District 4, Cordell Richardson, would have been at Blowing Point to greet her there. I was able to meet up with her after the motorcade. So to say that we're very proud of her and proud of all those who go out and represent. I know the member for Island Harbor would have mentioned about the Commonwealth Games. I was fortunate enough to have gone to the Games and been actively involved over the years. We do produce top athletes, Mr. Speaker, but we've tried over the years to rely on others to give us that extra support that is needed. You know, sometimes when you do it yourself, then the chances are you don't have to look around for anybody else to do it for you. I'm tired of begging for that. It is a time now where we as a people or as a government will do the best that we can to take our athletes to the very top. Those who've got that desire and that drive, we'll take them there. And over the coming months and years, Mr. Speaker, you'll see that. Mr. Speaker, again, I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, member. I recognize single island-wide member, Mr.
Mr. Speaker, good morning. And I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to start by expressing condolences to all those who have lost loved ones and to the family of Mr. Wilkin Smith, our revolutionary hero. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Mr. Speaker, I also want to continue to extend my condolences to my PS, Mr. Larry Franklin, on the passing of his mom. And the next couple of days will be extremely tough as the family continue to prepare to lay her to rest on the 5th of September. We all know P.S. Franklin. He has worked with many of us in this room. So I just want to ask that our collective thoughts and prayers be extended to him and his family as they go through this tough time, as well as to extend condolences to the family of Sandra Hodge and to the family of Kimberly Fleming, who I ran alongside in the 2020 election, and a very gentle spirit, Mr. Speaker. And as I check back through my WhatsApp messages, because we stayed in touch up to earlier this year, and Miss Kimberly Fleming had a ringing theme, as she would often message me throughout this year. And her theme, as she looked around in Anguilla, and she looked around at the development that is taking place along our coast, she would always send a message to ask about beach access for people. And I will always remember her, and I will continue as Minister of Lands, as within my autonomy, within my powers, to ensure that we protect and that we always provide beach access, irrespective of what development is happening in Anguilla. Our people, the beaches are public, and our people must always have access. So I'll remember her for always nudging me on that, Mr. Speaker. I also want to thank God for sparing us as a region thus far, because we are in the hurricane season. And this is the time where we are glued to the weather station. And as September approaches, we pray to God that we are spared once again from any storm or hurricanes that may be making up our farming in the region. Madam Speaker, I want to also acknowledge the fact that we would have received, Mr. Speaker, sorry, that we would have received some new school buses for the upcoming school term. That is just a matter of a week or two away. I would have met a driver this morning. We just, ran into each other. And he was expressing how happy he is. And he is very thankful to the Minister of Education and the Minister of Maiku for ensuring that these school buses came in time, and for ensuring that we have quality, good, high standard, luxury school buses. He mentioned the fact that they're fully air conditioned, and it's much more comfortable as a driver to now be busing our children to school. And he expressed the fact that in the past, there were hot buses, the windows had to be open, he would have to be driving certain speed to get the air in. Those days are gone. And we have comfortable buses where our children can drive to school, air conditioned. So that is something to be to be very proud of, Mr. Speaker. I also want to congratulate Ms. Anguilla for representing us so well across the region in Guyana, I believe it was. We thank her for her representation and for bringing the crown back to Anguilla. So thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. Recognize the member for District 6.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to join my colleagues in congratulating Ms. Akima Kati on her resounding victory. I call it Beauty and Brains competition, but it's really the Beauty and Intelligence competition held in Guyana. And you know, it's always difficult in this Caribbean to go into another man's country in the Caribbean and win. We see that often in the debating competitions where the home country typically wins. You know, even if they do not deserve to win. And we have had many controversies where we were confident that our debating team had won and were let down when they did not do so, even though we know they did so. So congratulations, Akima, and I can see her being another great Miss Anguilla, following the legacy of a number of great Miss Anguillas that we've had over the years. I'd also like to congratulate, as Dr. Webster said, Mr. Zarnell Hughes on his second place finish in the British Championships in the 200, and also their gold medal run in the 4x100. He's now a senior citizen in track and field. But as you know, he comes from a legacy of track athletes, you know, not only counting yours truly, but his siblings. His brother, we all know him as Panther, Lanval Hughes, was a great sprinter in his own right. And Carrier Hughes and his aunts and uncles and his dad were all tremendous athletes. So this genetic propensity runs to the blood of the Hughes family in South Hill. And that continues to be demonstrated on a global stage in terms of Zarnell Swift Hughes. And also congratulations on his first child. Hopefully he'll have many, many more in the very near future, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to congratulate Renard Lico for the 21st winner of the Anguilla Tennis Academy Scholarship. And Mr. Speaker, that is a tremendous feat by the Anguilla Tennis Academy. As you know, the Anguilla Tennis Academy was started by Mr. Michel Lake many, many moons ago, I believe about 30 years ago, probably a year after I opened my facility, because my facility is over 31 years now. And over those years, he had been providing many Anguillian students with the opportunity to go off and study abroad and achieve their tertiary level education. So congratulations to Mitch Lake and the Anguilla Tennis Academy, and also to Renard Lico. We know Renard Lico is the daughter, I forgot her name, but she works in Dites, and her Donette Lico, formerly Brian, from there in East End, and Mr. Lico. Also, Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to join the Honorable Kyle Hodge in expressing condolences to my cousin, Larry Franklin, on the passing of Bay. I believe we have done so in this Honorable House before. And also Miss Mary Richardson, who is the mother of Sandra Richardson, who passed recently. Also, as you know, she's the mother-in-law of Mr. Chris Richardson, and also a notary public. She too also passed from my constituency, Road South. And we also had another loss in Road South. It seems as if all of my supporters in Road South are going to the great beyond. In that of my other family member, Miss Udine Romney, who is the mother of the former public relations officer for the Anguilla United Front and a candidate for the Anguilla United Front, Mr. Mark Romney, and his brother Paul Romney. She recently passed at the ripe age of 90. What's that, 3 score, 4 score? 4 score and 10. 4 score and 10. So that's a pretty good record. We all hope to be able to get to that age. We also extend condolences to Sandra Hodge. And I believe someone spoke about the scourge of cancer. And we have a lot of people in Anguilla who are suffering from various cancers, a lot of people. And like Kimberly Fleming, we have lost 2 young ladies to the scourge of cancer. And Mr. Connor already spoke, and Mr. Hodge already spoke to the legacy of Kimberly Fleming. I believe that was a shocker for most people because people were not aware. But Mr. Speaker, I would also like to express condolences to the family of Wilkins Smith. A lot of people may not know, but my father, Hubert Benjamin Hughes, was once a candidate for Robert Llewellyn Bratcher. And when he was a candidate for Robert Llewellyn Bratcher back in 1961, at that time, Anguilla was one island-wide constituency. And so you had to campaign from Island Harbor to West End. So long before I was born, I believe he was doing so. But after I was born, and after we came to Anguilla, my father continued to visit people across the length and breadth of this island. In one of the homes we would frequent, especially on a Sunday, was the home of Rosebud and Wilkins Smith. We would frequent that home all the time to the point where she called me her son. So I would like to express my deepest condolences to her, her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren on the passing of Mr. Wilkins Smith. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to everyone. I also stand to extend condolences to all the families that are mourning on this day, and that they were previously mentioned. I would like to mention them as well. Mr. Mark Romney and his family for the loss of his mom, the family for Wilkins Smith, Sandra Hodge, and from another one from Long Bay, Kimberly Fleming, which, as many have already said, it was very shocking. And for me, especially because she was recently contracted as the center manager for the West End Community Development Center. And I remember that during the Easter, I personally drove during lunch down there because she was going through the Easter events. And when I saw her, she was very enthusiastic, very happy of what she wanted to progress through the community center at West End. And then days after, when the CSPU had called me to let me know that Kimberly had resigned, I was shocked, and I started to think of everything from salary to what could have happened, because I did not have the reason at the moment. And then when I got the news, it was really heartbreaking, especially Kimberly was from Long Bay. So I want to extend my sincere condolences to the family. And Mr. Speaker, as this is the sad part about it, but we also have some joy, which is Miss Anguilla, which she was crowned Miss Anguilla recently, and then went off to Guyana and now crowned Miss Caribbean Beauty and Intelligence Queen 2026. So I also want to extend my congratulations to her for that and continue to wish her continued success on her journey. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. Recognize the member for District number 5, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon to everyone listening. Good afternoon to everyone here in this honorable house. Mr. Speaker, I too rise to offer my condolences to all who mourn. Quite a few names have been mentioned in this honorable house already, and it seems like from one tip of the island to the next, and across this entire island, many of our communities are mourning, and I wish to offer condolences to every family that's mourning at this time. I won't go through everyone that has been mentioned already, but I will offer my condolences to the family of Crisilda Cassie Baptiste, who will be laid to rest this Saturday. I offer condolences to her children, her grandchildren, her siblings, the entire community of Sandy Ground, as they lay this strong community member to rest this weekend. I also want to stand and publicly give my condolences to the family of Kimberly, As mentioned, she ran with us in the elections of 2020. But prior to that, Madam Speaker, I also had the great opportunity to work with her at Barclays Bank PLC many, many moons ago. And we developed a friendship from then that, lasted the test of time. I don't remember a lot of what I say, and I don't ever go back and listen to any presentation I make because I honestly hear the sound of my own voice. But I can distinctly remember in the 2020 elections, Mr. Speaker, when I was asked to speak in District 7 on behalf of Ms. Kimberly Fleming. I remember opening my presentation with the scripture verse, "Let your light shine before men that they may see your good works," because that is what I actually thought of Kimberly. She wasn't loud by any means, she wasn't boisterous by any means, but as everyone who have spoken about her and everyone who knows her, she was very powerful in what she stood for. If she stood on a particular matter and she stood on particular ground, trust me, you cannot move her, you cannot shake her once she believed in what she stood for. And as a Kimberly, I would like to remember, she was strong, she was resolute. And we've talked about the scourge of diseases and cancers affecting the body because what I knew about Kimberly is she took great care of herself. She was very conscious of her health as well. She was very, very health conscious, Mr. Speaker. But in all of this, what it teaches us is that, we have to appreciate life. We have to appreciate life. We are seeing younger and younger persons go to the great beyond. We are seeing where families are left to mourn and carry on. And just by today's announcements, today's other orders, we've heard of so many people who are mourning across this country. And there's always something that I can disagree with you on, but I can find a lot more things to agree with you on. And yes, disagreements will happen. Yes, we all won't see eye to eye, but I just think in this kind of setting, this reminds us, at least just be a little bit more tolerable of our brothers and our sisters and everybody in the community. Nobody ever sees eye to eye, but we can be a little bit more tolerable to everyone. So I want to offer my condolences, Mr. Speaker, to all her family who mourn, especially her son, JR. I know the special, special love she had for her son. As a matter of fact, the most passionate I heard her speak on any of the debates, any of the presentations during the 2020 elections was when some remarks were made about her son online. And when she took the mic, the passion that came out of her was, oh man, it was something I had to be like, Kim, what was that all about? You see, they go at my son, you know what time it is. But she felt, family, she was strong about, as a member mentioned, lands. She was very, very strong about Anguillians holding on to their lands. And like I said, when she was passionate about something, she was definitely passionate about it. So I just again want to offer my condolences to all who mourn, especially those in the Western Long Bay community. I also want to offer congratulations to our Caribbean Queen, Miss Akima Carty. I know the entire island is extremely proud of her bringing back that crown back here to Anguilla. Congratulations also to Zanel, as the member mentioned, as he enters in his senior season citizenship, still continuing to produce and make Anguilla proud. And I also want to mention another seasoned Anguillian athlete who continues to carry Anguilla on his back, Mr. Jamal Hamilton. Another honorable member for West End reminded me that Mr. Hamilton is not the first Anguillian to make 100 first-class caps. His honorable member reminded me that he is the first to do it. But at this point in time, Mr. Hamilton, from his teenage years, have been carrying cricket, the Anguilla cricket on his back, and he continues. Every time I see him play and dive across at balls, I'm wondering if he's ever going to show his age, So I just also want to just publicly congratulate him for the great work he continues to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To not want to belabor the points anymore, I will be concise. I just rise to stand in consolidation with my colleagues in terms of offering condolences to all the persons who mourn and suffer at this time. Ms. Kimberly Fleming, while I may not have known her in my early years, my first interactions with her in my adult life would have been leading up to the 2020 general elections. But my mother would have known her quite well, as I was a Barclays baby at the time. So my mother would have worked closely with the members across the aisle who at the time were working in Barclays. So I'm sure it probably was run up and down the place somewhere. But so the member says that he used to babysit me, Mr. Speaker. So when it comes to the 2020 general election, and even beyond then, even though we would have contested the general elections on opposite sides of the political divide, there was never any animosity, and I can't recall a single time of contention or bad interaction between Kimberly and myself, which is a testament to her character and the type of person she was. She was truly a gentle soul, and for that, I definitely want to extend condolences to her family and the community and all those impacted. The fact that we can operate on different sides of the political divide, but unite in times like these, I think it shows that beyond politics, we need to remember that first and foremost, we are all Anguillians. And as a result, I think that we should use moments of reflection such as this to remind us to unite, as it's great. We have greater what brings us together than what divides us and drives us apart, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to offer congratulations to Ms. Anguilla. Not for any questioning of her capabilities, but we all know that when you travel, the member would have alluded to debate, we have been scorned by the fact that saying the home country usually somehow miraculously wins. So we knew that she was potentially at a disadvantage going into the competition. So to bring the crown back home, it's a testament of her ability, of her success, and at the standard at which she delivered. And she made all of us and an entire nation proud. So we wish her much more continued success as she continues what we hope will be a long and more fruitful and more successful journey as she continues. Mr. Speaker, my colleague would have alluded to the fact that the new school buses are now all on island. And in the upcoming days, we'll have a handover so that the MICO team can formally give them to education, so that in advance of the school term, our students will be able to be driving around in comfort and not buses that continuously break down. So on that note, I would like to thank the permanent secretary at MICO, as well as the team within the ministry and the Department of Infrastructure, the superintendent of vehicles, the Minister of Education, along with her permanent secretary and her team, for all of the various works that would have gone in leading us to this point. We would have sent off our team early in the year on a fact-finding mission, Mr. Speaker, where they went to Florida and would have visited different suppliers to see where we could get the buses. And it's been a combined effort that has gotten us to this point. In addition to the school buses, we recently would have had a handover of 4 Ford Interceptors to the Royal Anguilla Police Force, boosting their complement and an investment in their service as they continue to protect the people of Anguilla. And on that note, I want to commend them as we had a relatively incident-free carnival. Since the handover of the 4 Ford Interceptors, we've recently received some new Broncos that are currently being outfitted and will soon be handed over to them as well, further increasing their complement and better enabling them to continue and protect our society. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I just want to say, as we approach a new school term, I want to wish the parents well, the students well, and I wish many successes to all who will be furthering their studies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. As member for District 2, Mrs. Richardson Hodge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to add my voice to the sentiments that have already been stated in this honorable house by all of the previous speakers. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Ministry of Home Affairs, the government of Anguilla, and my own and my family's behalf, I wish to extend the deepest condolences to Ms. Sandra Hodge, in particular, who would have been a former member of the Department of Immigration. As is with so many of the others, Kimberly Fleming, Mr. Giovanni Brooks, as I understand, who would have also had an untimely passing. So many of these persons were young and have gone too soon for us. Also the revolutionary hero, Mr. Wilkins Smith, none other, who was also known as a singer. And for some reason, Mr. Speaker, Island Harbor has produced so many country and western singers. And growing up as a child, my father, and he still continues to play every Sunday morning starting at 6 a.m., country and western music, including the music of Mr. Wilkins Smith. And so we extend our condolences to his family, friends, and loved ones. And a full account of the experiences of him and other Rambler warriors can be found in The Battle for Freedom, 1967 to 1969, written by Calvin Petty and Mr. Nathaniel Hodge. I also wish to extend condolences to the family, friends, son, husband of Miss Kimberly Fleming. As was mentioned, I have always marveled and said to the member for West End that for some reason the campaigns in District 7 have always been very polite, where they just talk about issues and not about each other. And I've always remarked that I wish that I could have the same thing in my district. But that, it is what it is, Speaker. Eugene Romney, the children of Eugene Romney, Mr. Mark Romney and Paul Romney, and her family, friends, and loved ones, I also extend my condolences to them. Mary Richardson, Mr. Speaker, as a young lawyer coming back from law school and practicing here in Anguilla, Mrs. Richardson was a very important person to me. She would have notarized many documents over the years. She was one of the few persons who could notarize documents that I relied on time and time again, and I always found her spirit to be uplifting, encouraging, and supportive. And so I extend my condolences to her family, friends, and loved ones on her passing. And Mr. Speaker, in terms of our tremendous win in Guyana, I want to congratulate Miss Akima Carty for the work that she did, not only to secure her win as Miss Anguilla here in Anguilla, but going on and representing Anguilla to the region. And so congratulations to her. As was mentioned, Zana Hughes, Jamal Hamilton, congratulations to them as they continue to work hard and represent Anguilla. And I want to say a special congratulations to Miss Reina Liko, who happens to be my second cousin. And she travels today. And I want to wish her congratulations as she goes off, entering into a new world, new experiences. And her brother Drayden also, just a few weeks ago, would also have been granted a scholarship. And he is off as well. And so I want to congratulate the family for all of the work that they have put in. And these two wonderful young people are off to start a new part of their lives. And generally, Mr. Speaker, on the last occasion, I would have congratulated and would have wished well for all of our school leavers. We still have some here in Ireland who are about to depart. We saw recently a young lady who's on her way to St. Kitts to take up nursing, and we wish her well. The daughter of Miss Hodge, Jamala Hodge from East End. And so, Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of good things. We are seeing the passing of loved ones, yes, but we also have a lot of good opportunities, great experiences, great stories coming forward from our young people as well. And so I want to encourage each and every one of them to continue to strive in their respective areas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, member. Are there any other contributions? If there are no other contribution, I would like to ask leave of this honorable house, to make a few remarks myself. Of course, condolences to all of the families that were mentioned. And it's always difficult to include everyone. Some folks and families would be left out. You did mention member Giovanni Brooks, Miss Romney. I would also want to mention the Richardson's family, and particularly Gavin Richardson, who would have lost his 38-year-old son recently in Canada, laid to rest. And also Mr. Ambrose Richardson. I think someone might have mentioned it, but I didn't recorded here. Growing up, I knew him in agricultural department. We used to call it the plot in those days. He would have been, I'm sure, more than 90 years of age. He has a number of children who are civil servants and top civil servants, so we'd want to extend congratulations to them as well. Condolences to them as well. But also, would want to congratulate all of those folks, whether it's sports, whether it's talent, students who are going off to university as well, to congratulate them. And I would also like to apologize, being the senior citizen in this honorable house, to apologize to our national heroes, so to speak. When the member for District 1 spoke about Wilkin Smith, our Kachik, as we know him, it left a bitter taste in my mouth, and I'll be frank and honest, because we have not treated our I call them soldiers, our patriots, so to speak, because what they would have done, going to St. Kitts in an open boat, I think it was either 6 or 8 of them at the particular point in time, and some of them were held there and imprisoned and so on and so forth. Over the years, as a developing nation, we have not treated our heroes in a respectful manner. Yes, Anguilla Day, honoring them on Anguilla Day is fine, but going through life and making sure that they are taken care of, because they are the ones why we are here today in this honorable house. And I apologize publicly, because as governments of the past, present, and I will hope that our future parliamentarians will look back at history and treat those who come after us much better than we did for those. I don't know whether it's a lack of historical prominence or a lack of knowing or knowledge, so to speak. I believe that there is only 2 of those revolutionary heroes now that are alive since the passing of Wilkin Smith. I believe Mr. Del Prado Harrigan and his brother Toddville were among those the set who would have gone to St. Kitts and so on and so forth. And it saddens me because our generations and generations after us would not have known the significance that these individuals would have played and put their lives on the line for us to call this beautiful place, Anguilla, our home. So again, I congratulate those folks who were successful in their endeavors. My condolences go out to all of those who would have lost loved ones, and my apologies go out to those heroes who I believe we did not treat the way they should have been treated. Thank you all.
Adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House be adjourned until its next scheduled sitting on September 8th.
Is there a seconder?
I rise to second, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question that this honorable house stands adjourned until September 8th at 10 a.m. All those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable house stands adjourned until Tuesday, September the 8th at 10 a.m. in the morning.